Hey everyone, Adelaide here from Hands Up Melly, and today we're going to be making some apple muffins. Today we're not going to be using egg, so if you do have a friend or family member that does have an allergy to egg, we're going to make a recipe today that doesn't use it. Instead we're going to be using some apple puree or apple sauce. This one does have a small amount of sugar added to it. You can get some other ones that don't have any sugar, or the other option is to make your own apple puree. So we're going to start talking about that first. So what I'm going to do is take 1 or 2 apples, we're going to peel it and then chop it up and pop it into this saucepan. You want to make sure that you chop out this bit in the middle. This is the core of the apple. And then we just want to chop into some small pieces. So depending on how many apples you want to do, you'll just have to add a little splash of liquid. So probably adding in a teaspoon or 2 per apple. Okay, and there we go, we've got our apple ready there, so I'm just going to put a splash of water in and then pop it on the stove top for around 5 to 10 minutes until the apple's nice and soft. At the end, you can puree that up if you like, or you can leave it a bit more chunky, whatever you prefer. We're going to use some tinned apple or one that's already been pureed by the store. So this one here does have a little bit of sugar, but you can get some that don't have any added sugar. Today I'm not going to add any sugar to our recipe, and that's because it should be sweet enough with this apple puree. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in 1 cup to our bowl. So this is something the kids can help with. They just need a spoon and they can measure it out in the bowl so there's not much mess. All right, so there's our 1 cup there. The next thing we're going to add is our next wet ingredient, which is some canola oil. So we're going to do 1/3 of a cup of our canola oil. So depending on what you have available, you could also use some margarine. Now this one's a bit tricky because it's really big, so be extra careful. So we've got 1 cup of apple and 1/3 of a cup of our oil as well. The next thing I'm going to do is just mix that together. So again, the kids could grab a fork or a whisk and give this one a go. So that's going to form, I guess, our sticky component to help our muffins stay together because we haven't added any egg in today. So the next thing we're going to add in are our dry ingredients. To make these ones nice and healthy, we're going to be adding some oats today and using some flour. The other option is you could use wholemeal flour, which has already got some fibre in it as well. So it's up to you based on what you've got available. Today we're going to use our self-raising flour and our oats. So this recipe is pretty simple. So it's 1 cup of oats to 1 cup of flour. Depending on what flour you have, we might also add in some baking powder as well. So I'll just measure out my oats first. So these are just plain rolled oats that you can get from your supermarket. Then the next thing we're going to do is add in our flour. So I'm going to use the self-raising flour today, but if you were choosing to use a plain flour, you would just add 3 teaspoons of our baking powder as well to make sure that it rises nicely. So I've just got 2 half cups there. So doing some baking with your kids can also be helpful to test out their math skills as well. There we go. If you want to make your muffins extra fluffy, you can use a sieve as well to make the flour nice and fluffy. So the final ingredient that we're going to add in today is some cinnamon. So just adding as much as you like. This one can be, a nice flavour to go with apple. So add in around a teaspoon if you like, and then we'll get some mixing happening. Now, if you find your batter is not runny enough, you can add a little bit of extra either water or apple puree, or you could also add some milk if you wanted, depending on if you're trying to keep it milk-free or not. So the next thing I'll do is just grab out our patty pans and we'll get baking. Okay, so our batter's ready to go. The next thing we need to do is get our patty pans ready. So you can see I've got some here today that I'm going to use. If you don't have any, what you can do is grab a piece of baking paper and just pop that into the tin. And then you can pop your batter straight in there and that can act as your wrapper. All right, so I've got to take a big scoop and pop it in. I'm actually going to do a little bit of spray oil just to make sure my patty pans don't stick, but you don't have to do that. Now, depending on what you want to do, you can add some little extras on top. So I've just got some oats here, so I might sprinkle some of them on top. You can also add a sprinkle of the cinnamon, or you could put some chopped apple on top, depending on what you like. There we go. All right, so we've got our muffins all ready to go, so I'll pop them in the oven. I've had it on at 180 degrees to heat up, and they might take around 20 minutes, but make sure you keep an eye on them from around 15 minutes to make sure they don't overcook. Okay, so I've just taken our muffins out of the oven. They took around 20 minutes at 180 degrees. So I'll pop them out here for you to see. These can be great as a snack, and you can also combine them with some fruit or some yogurt if you'd like to include more of the food groups. And these ones did have only, I guess, apple in them, so there's no egg in these ones, so you can share them with anyone that has an allergy to egg, which is great.